kids and I will be all right. All you have to do is just take care of yourself for a while, okay? Okay?
Yeah.
I know.
Man.
I know.
Okay.
Oh. Connie, come here. Now go. Connie. Connie. Give him hell, Harry.
It isn't the way I want to.
You stay here. Need it. Okay.
11:30 this morning, they announced to us that the plant was going to be permanently closed, put up for sale or lease. They told us that the plant would cease operation by April. And you thought you seen the handwriting on the wall. You thought you seen it. And I want to tell you that you're wrong. This company doesn't even have the decency to ship our jobs to other American workers.
The American worker. Some people have forgotten the craftsmanship he brings to his job. Some say he's not as important as he used to be. Well, for that, we politely answer, bunk. At Zenith, Americans like these produce the color TV that service technicians named more than any other as the one that needs fewest repairs. American workers, Zenith workers. They make sure the quality goes in before the name goes on.
We believe that Zenith has tried longer, has tried harder, and has tried more successfully than any other United States company to protect the jobs of its American employees. It is now apparent, however, that unless we take actions that will result in the moving of about 5,000 jobs to lower labor cost areas, it will be impossible for us to protect the interest of our stockholders and the interests of some 15,000 Zenith employees whose jobs will remain in the United States.
If we have a democracy, and we participate in that democracy, then we as a right, and we have a right, to change this society the way we want it to be run, not the way the private enterprisers want our ship to be run in this country. We have that right. And we have a right to say that that employer has a community responsibility. A responsibility that says you don't go to the place that you can get the cheapest labor or the best tax deal. And I'm not just classifying Zenith, because there's one hell of a lot of other corporations that are doing the same thing that Zenith's doing, what they're doing to you here in the United States today. That when you invest in a community, that it means to be a good citizen. It means to provide jobs for those people that live in that community. And I say to you that if the people in the free enterprise system in this country can't provide the jobs for the American workers, then by God, the government of this country should, and it will someday.
I am Sandra Jorgensen. I grew up in Sioux City. I've been here all my life. Stephen's my little boy. And a month after he was born, he had an operation. I don't know the words that they use, but the tubes going into his stomach wasn't letting his formula stay down, which was causing him to vomit. And they had to go in and do surgery on him to open up the passageway going into his stomach. And I was so excited about having a little boy, because I have a little girl named Kimmy.
My name is Dennis Jorgensen. I've lived in Sioux City all my life, and I think it's just the right size city to raise a family. It's a nice, clean town. It's relatively free of crime. I've always enjoyed it here. I would not like to move out of this town, let me say. I enjoy the kids so much. I want to be able to raise this family, these kids to have all the things children should have. I want them to have 3 meals a day. I want them to have a roof over their head, and I want them to have clothes, and I want them to have a chance to grow up normally, like most children do, not have to worry about helping the family off when they're 15 or 16 by getting a job. I want them to enjoy their childhood. There's so many things wrong with this house, you don't even know where to start. And it's a very slow project to get going. You got to do a little bit here, do a little there, when you can scrape up the extra money.
When I graduated from high school, I really wanted to go into hairstyling. I thought I'd give that a try. Well, once we got married, going to hairstyling school was completely out, because I had bills before we got married, and he had bills. And we just knew that we both had to work to pay our bills.
I had gone to college, and Vietnam War came on, and I left school. I thought I was going to go to service. At the last minute, they didn't want me, so rather than start back to college, I needed a job for a while. At the time, I thought I wanted to work rather than continue to go to school. In September, Zenith came out with a letter. It was signed by the president. It said there was a cutback. They're going to have to move some of their stuff to Taiwan and Mexico. The first reaction was Zenith had always prided themselves in being an American company, and their advertising had been built around that, what a great workforce America had, and how much work you could get out of the American worker. And they're going to turn around and take this all away from the American worker and give it to some other country or some other people. And that was sickening. My wife was really worried. I've always got by, and I figured we'd also too, but boy, for weeks, all you heard down at work was, what am I going to do? Where are we going to work at? There's no jobs.
When I heard that I was going to be laid off, I was in the hospital with Stephen. I almost wanted to cry. I couldn't believe it. It's kind of rough having a baby and then hearing bad news that you might not have a job. I was just very depressed. I thought, working there 8 years and now getting kicked in the butt, it just kind of hurt, because I plan on probably retiring there. I was thinking in the hospital at the time, after he told me, wondering how we're going to raise our kids, how we're going to make our bills. We might end up losing all we got and have to start all over again someplace else. It's just depressing, very depressing. Because nobody likes the thought of having to start all over again.
I know at first it didn't sink into me. And now having to go somewhere else and starting at the bottom. And when you start at the bottom, you've got to start all over with the layoffs, shortages every year. It's a merry-go-round if you don't settle into something.
I'd like to go up to the one that started this whole damn mess and punch him right in the nose.
It's affecting me and my family. You've got to look out for your own family first. I feel sorry for everyone else in my boat, but what can you do? My goals in life are just about like everyone else's. I'd like to be able to earn a decent living, earning enough money to have a nice home. I want to have security for the future.
I think Zenith don't care anymore. They just want that cheaper labor, and they'll go out and get it. I think we should come first before anybody. We've helped them people like in Taiwan. The government's helped them so much. Why don't he start thinking about us now? Start helping us. We all have to make our living, by God.
The American worker. Over the years, he earned a reputation for craftsmanship. Today, some people say he's lost it. But at Zenith, we know better. Today, American workers like these produce Zenith Color TV, picked for fewest repairs, more than any other brand, in the opinion of TV service technicians. Zenith workers. American workers.
I would claim to be an advocate of free enterprise. I'd claim to be a capitalist, whatever words you want to use. I don't think that the free enterprise system or the capitalist system has ever succeeded in the world, anywhere in the world, unless there was a middle class or a labor class or whatever you want to call it that was well paid and that was able to consume goods. You just can't combine high unemployment with democracy. It can't be done.
Well, I think we're on a one-way road to ultimate disaster if we don't do something to protect the jobs of American workers.
The television industry, in our opinion, has been a victim of seriously unfair trade practices. We've been a victim of dumping. We've been a victim of unfair and what we regard to be unlawful tax advantages on the part of overseas competitors, and we've been a victim, in our judgment, of flat-out violations of American antitrust laws.
All right, let me tell you this, that I personally, and excuse me why I blow a little bit, to those around this community, the farmer in Kingsley, the businessman in Sheldon, Iowa, and the others who have written in the letters to the editor claiming that it's the high wages and it's a great union contract that we have with Zenith that's driving Zenith to Taiwan and Mexico, I want to say that he's full of shit. And that's the best way I can put it. If they think that $3.30 in our days and times is the reason that we lost our jobs to Taiwan and Mexico, they got another thing coming.
I'm charged with the responsibility to negotiate the labor agreements for all the workers that we represent, covering wages, hours, working conditions of employment. I am charged with the responsibility to handle all grievances and all disputes in the plants. I have a reputation in this town of
that might be tough.
Being a very, very hard bargainer, very hard person that will go and get the goals of the people. I'm very unpopular in this town in many, many circles. Now, I'm not ashamed of that reputation. I worked hard for it. You know, the companies have been very generous in building that reputation for me. One company in town here, when we were on strike, ran full-page ads. Nothing but labeling Dick Sturgeon as the instigator, the troublemaker, the person that's responsible for the strike, and the person that's keeping the strike from ending. The closing of Zenith is going to be a blow to the city in several ways. There's going to be a massive loss of payroll. But I think even more so, it's going to put on the city some social problems that this town has not faced before. What worries me so much is that when all these people are laid off and lose their jobs, is that the massive problems are going to begin at that time. That a constant struggle to keep them qualified for unemployment and the TRA program, the trade allowance program. Right now, the membership at Zenith represents over half of our whole union in Sioux City. We have a very special problem here, where about 93% of the Zenith workers are females. They're either divorced, widowed, single with kids, or single alone, where that is the only income coming into the home. This layoff and these loss of jobs is going to cause a very serious problem, because there is no place in Sioux City they're going to be able to pick up that many females and provide them with wages sufficient to be able to support a family. But they're proud people, and and they're working rather than taking a handout, and they're proud of it. They're very proud of it. And once they are laid off, and when the benefits do run out in a year or so, they're going to find themselves having to crawl into the welfare office and ask for assistance. We've seen a negative growth in the city. We've been in that position before, but this is far worse than what we've ever seen before. We have seen so many plants close and so many people put out on the street. Somehow, some way in this world, we've got to get back to where we care about each other. And I see it so evident in the circles I walk that so many people would get care less what happens to each other, the self-centered. And somehow, some way, we got to get back to the point where if you're hurting, I'm hurting. If you've got a need, I've got a need. And I see that that's getting worse and worse every day, that people just don't care. Because I don't think any of us can make it alone. I know I couldn't.
Now, they can't get the high levels of living without suffering some of the costs of getting the high levels of living. Some of the costs may be short spells of unemployment, but they will be short if they will take alternative jobs, and alternative jobs are available, sometimes elsewhere or sometimes in Sioux City.
I think that a person who in good faith has moved into a certain trained occupation deserves something from society. So I would not say that there's no role for quotas which are being phased out, for transfer programs which support people's income, which even might provide them with detailed retraining. I think that all of those things are necessary and are desirable, not only for the human pain which they alleviate in the short run, but because, you know, in terms of politics, you won't get the flexible economy which is the best for all of us if you take this ruthless, the public be damned attitude, let the market decide, the market. It won't sell, and that's the test for the market.
Let's operate in the public interest. And if people want to call that protectionism, I reject that definition on the very basis that every other civilized industrial democracy in this world today takes protective measures for the jobs of its citizens, except the United States of America. We're the only one that doesn't erect some kind of protection beyond a place at the end of the unemployment compensation line for displaced workers.
My name is Janice Dickus. I have 3 children. My marriage only lasted 7 years. I feel like it's a rat race when you're doing it all alone. I feel like I'm under pressure all the time. Rushing off to get to work and rushing to get home to the children. When I'm at Zenith, I wonder if the children made it to school, what my little one's doing. I know my babysitter goes shopping with my little one. I wonder, too, if they make it back. With Zenith closing down, it has scared me. It's changed a lot of plans in my life. Well, here I thought, working at Zenith, I would build my rights up. I'd build up my Social Security. I'd build up my profit sharing. All my buildings are down. I don't think I would leave the city because it has been my home. And going into a strange city, I don't know if I could do this by myself. Not by myself and 3 children, anyhow. With Zenith closing, it means that I cannot take care of my children myself. I've brought them into this world, and I feel like I'm the one that should take care of them. I should provide for them in the best way that I can. Come, Lord Jesus.
America, let these kids rest in peace. Amen. Amen.
I don't like people fooling around with my life. I just really thought that Zenith would be my place to work the rest of my life. That I wouldn't be out looking for another job. To me, a divorcee, they feel, is someone that's always out and not tending to the business at home. Well, I don't want people to talk about me like that, because that isn't the way I was brought up. I'm just going to go out and do what I have to do for my family and not worry about my own enjoyment right now. I like to see the kids when I get off work, to see that everything is okay. It would be terrible to be working for 8 hours and come home and find nothing. I spend most of my extra time that I do have with the children. We can have a family as long as we stick together, we work together, and that we just be good to one another and love each other. I probably show more love to them, or I'm with them more, because there is no father. I want the best for them, and it's hard to provide that. I guess I'm like any other parent. You want better for them than what you had. And I can't see being away from your home and going to a job that isn't going to pay anything, because I don't feel like it's worth it. If you're going to be out there working, they better pay a decent wage that you can live on. Right now, from life, I just want to go out with the feeling that everything's going to be okay. That there's not going to be worry about this, worry about that. I mean, maybe I look too far into the future, but I still feel like you have to think about it.
Well, when people lose jobs, certainly we're always going to be concerned about the fact that for the moment that's going to be causing distress. What we've got to recognize is that we want that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. You do have to go get the pot of gold, and that does mean making changes. If we want higher levels of living, you do have to move ahead. You can't sit still.
You can't conclude that there is progress, even though there are cheaper consumer products. You can't conclude that there is progress by having those products built at very substantially lower labor cost and sold cheaper, because the only result of that is going to be to pull down everybody's standard of living.
Well, the people who apparently are getting hurt in the process of a Sioux City plant closing, for instance, over the spell of their whole lives, are being benefited by that kind of plant closing, plant openings that are occurring, because they were getting higher wages in that plant than they could have gotten elsewhere, because the flexibility and adaptability of the economy is such that that plant got located there in the first place.
We stand right on the threshold of war in the streets of America, because we already have an unemployment problem with a lot of disenchanted minority people being the primary victims of that. And all we need now are a few displaced workers that believe they have legitimate rights to jobs and join that army of the unemployed, and I think you've got the potential for a very hot time in America's streets, and I would see that as the beginning of the crumbling of a great society.
My name is Jeanette Clift, and we're farmers. I keep the books. I have for years, and it brings you face to face with reality constantly. We do not make a lot of money. We've worked real diligently for what we have. You have to fall back on some general income coming in all the time. I went to work at Zenith because we were visibly falling back. I felt that I had to have an extra means of going forward, helping to get ahead, to maintain a standard of living. I consider my paycheck essential to cover the basic costs of living, the electricity and telephone, the dental bills. When I come home, then I go out to take care of the hogs. If the workload has been heavy, I'm almost physically ill. Sometimes then I will lie down and take a nap or rest a little before I go back out and do the hog chores. It's not always easy to do an 8-hour job and then come back home and have at least 2 hours facing you and maybe even more. I don't believe that anyone can appreciate the hard work, physical effort, and long hours that go into farming unless they take part in it. Everybody, I think, dreams of having stable roots, and it's not that easy. It is coming to the point where I will no longer be able to take care of hogs. At one time, I had a very bad back, and at one time, I had a leg operated on. And both of these bother me, especially in diverse weather. And the older you get, the more these things do bother you. It is a never-ending battle. But right now, what I'm looking at is how do you get from 50 to 65. It's not the time of your life that you want to continue to work harder all the time. It's a time where you'd like to start slacking off. I think it's very important to maintain your independence and to help the future generation to maintain their independence. You can't give up the struggle. I don't care if the work is hard or if it's long hours. You have to hang in there and try to prepare a world for the younger generation. I don't know what we'd be if we didn't have the children to look forward to, and I know that it must have been the same way with our parents. They must have felt very strong about helping to provide a world that the children could grow up in that was decent. When the whole family's together, the whole struggle's worth it, and we have such a good time. The main thing in our life is, of course, our children. Having them around and enjoying them, it's just a lot of fun. I am really going to miss my job at Zenith.
It's clearly a burden that is spread unequally, and this land and right square on the backs of the people who are least able to carry it.
There's no other democracy and few other countries of any kind of government in which an individual attracts as much degradation and contempt of his neighbors and friends as does an American when he's out of work. It's your passport, absolutely, to the respect of your friends, your family, oftentimes your wife even, and if you don't have a job in this country, you don't have anything.
What we economists try to do is concentrate not on why that fellow in the horse and buggy industry lost his job, and we don't concentrate even on why he didn't get a job in the auto industry, because it might not be the same place, but why isn't there a job somewhere for him? And the total of job opportunity, that's something which ought to be the business and the serious business of the Federal Reserve and the Congress and the fiscal policy of the president.
I am Dora Lee. I'm 55. I've been a widow be 3 years this coming January. When Claude was alive, I never worried. But without him, it doesn't seem to work out. It seemed like I'd take 5 steps ahead and 10 backwards. I get out of one mess, I'm in another mess. Every time that we got a little money ahead, it had to go for doctor bills or hospital bills or something like that. There was quite a few bills that I had to pay with what money we had. I have always felt bad that I cannot afford a stone for him. This has bothered me. I don't have a marker for the grape. If I can keep my head above water, I hope someday to get a marker for Dad. I tell you, right after Claude died, you know, everybody was willing to help, eager to help. But it kind of slides by. They kind of get tired of it, I guess you would say. They look at you, so you're a widow. Big deal. We got our own lives to live. I found this, I'm sorry to say, to be very true. After a while, they kind of forget that you're over here, that you're around here, that maybe you need a little help. You know, it just, I don't know. I don't think it's just me. I think it's a lot of widows. I'm the only child living. So the burden is on my shoulder of taking care of my mother. I just feel bad that I can't do more for her than what I do. I would like to be able to, really do something spectacular for her, and I can't do it. When I got the job at Zenith, Todd said, well, Mom, we're going to make it now. He says, you got something, and you got some benefits, and you're going to be all right. If Zenith was to close down, I don't know what I'd do, because I'm 55 years old. Where do you go? They don't want to be bothered with you. And what am I capable of doing at my age? I'm a very independent person, and it bothers me to ask for help. It really hurts me. And I never have asked for help. You know, like food stamps and things like that, I never have. I'm very conscientious of my work at Zenith. I have to do it right. And that's the way I was brought up. You do things right or you don't do them at all. Well, I hope that that's what made Zenith a successful place, is on account of they had people like me. And there's a lot of them, I'm sure, down there like me, that are proud of their job and want to do the job and do a good job. And I don't think it's right that Zenith should take and just don't take that into consideration. How they can do this to us, I don't know.
Well, granted, the 64-year-old worker who has a specific skill that's tied to a specific location, a specific job, does have some adjustment problems that are involved there. Now, the adjustment problems tend to be overplayed, however. We find an awful lot of 70-year-old workers who change jobs and do quite well. This is a matter of attitude, willingness, adaptability. And adaptability is not just a matter of indigenous human quality, it's a matter of willingness to do the adapting.
Women of 55 years of age with barely a high school education who had never worked in any other industry than the shoe industry. Now, there is no way, realistically, that a betting man can say that they are not going out of the labor force, and it would be dishonest not to recognize that. But we have to weigh the advantage of the average person, those who benefit, those who lose, and it works out overall, in the long run, to the net advantage of the standard of living of the American worker.
My name is Michael Kane. I'm Patty's boyfriend. First time I asked Patty to go out on a date, I think I was giving her a ride home from work. Before I met Patty, I never even knew a deaf person in my life. And it was such a hassle to try to fingerspell everything. We went to a few places. Well, it's hard to be with somebody for a long period of time when there's, you can't carry on a conversation. But as time went by, I guess she was more patient, and I picked it up. I started taking sign language courses within 4 months, I was able to carry on somewhat of a conversation. I enjoyed being with her. The deaf people she knew mostly were together, and they go to the deaf club on these nights, and they had the deaf athletic activities and stuff like that. Patty used to take me to meet a lot of her deaf friends, and I used to really enjoy it because it was really a different situation. I started to get to know them, and we all basically did the same things that everybody else did, except for talk with their hands, and I talked with my mouth. And that was about the only difference. It seemed like we'd have the same taste, the same likes. We enjoy to play these kind of games and play those kind of games. You know, there's some people that are cheerful all the time, and I think Patty's that way, and I think people just seem to like her easy. She makes me feel good, because it always seems like she's happy to see me, and, you know, that makes me happy. She's a self-dependent person. I think she gets along on her own real good. Patty's job at Zenith is real important to her, because there's where her self-dependence is. There's where she has her house, that's where she has her car, that's where she gets her money to live in Sioux City. If she loses her job at Zenith, you know, she might have an awful hard time trying to find a job, especially with the amount of people in this area that are out of work. And she is going to be limited for the job she could get, you know. You have to face it, she isn't going to be able to be a clerk or a teller, a bank teller, or something like that. I told Patty how I felt about it. I told her that I thought it was really a bad deal, that she didn't understand the reasoning behind it, which I don't blame her. I don't understand it either, you know. She's like anybody else. She has to make car payments, pay rent, has to eat, and you know, there's no doubt her standard of living would have to go down.
I think it's absolutely preposterous for anybody in the United States of America to sit back and say, we have it too good, we are too wealthy, we make too much money, or our standard of living is too high. At the very least, we have a world obligation, in my humble judgment, to maintain at least what we have as a standard of living, hopefully perfect it, but at least maintain it as a goal to which all of the balance of the world ought to aspire, and that we ought to be taking every action we can as a people, and as a government, and as concerned human beings with assisting other nations of the world to achieve that aspiration. To do anything else, to me, is retrogressive and antisocial.
There are people who would like to live in a world in which there were no barriers. The fact is the world has barriers. And the question is whether the American people are getting taken at the expense or for the benefit of other people. My view is they are.
Well, if you and I were to look at our Christmas presents, were to look at our year's purchases of durables, we'd see how much of our standard of life would be lost if Fortress America shut its walls to all competition. We wouldn't be as badly off as some unbalanced parts of the world, but life would be shorter, nastier, and a bit more brutish.
My name is William Morris. We were one of the first ones that started this American Indian Center years ago. And we tried hard. I made costumes, my wife made costumes.
My name is Arlene Morris, and I was born in Winnebago, Nebraska, on an Indian reservation. I'm a full-blooded Winnebago Indian, no other blood. I quit school to get married. I've had 12 children. I have 11 living. 7 daughters and 4 sons, all within a span of 22 years. I lived life as it came. I guess that's my philosophy in life. You take what comes.
I'm dancing, I put my whole heart in it. When I hear the sound, I get the feeling there's something there. I think I'm somebody out there anyway. You know, I'm with my own tribe, dancing. So we bring our family, and all my children will dance. I always tell them, get with that drum and dance your heart out. I said, that's what you're there for. Just put your heart into it, and that's what they all do. And I'm proud, you know, that my family could be with me. See, we're enjoying ourselves because we work all week. Then we come home, we feel good, you know. We've come home a lot of times at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and still have to get up and go to work. But we enjoy it, so we say, well, we can suffer Monday. That's what we do. Well, Zenith changed everything, you know, for me. My pride is lost. You know, pride is gone, see. I don't know just how to put it, but before, if I went anywhere, I held my head up, you know, because I had money in my pocket, and I didn't care what I said, you know. And I could always argue with a guy if he says something about my car, or I'll fix it up, because I know I got the money to do it, you know. But now, I figure I ain't got that kind of money now, so I'm the kind of guy that I want to be the provider alone, you know. I want to make enough money to see them smile when I come in that door. And I done lost that. I don't want to go begging. No. I think my children depended on us all the way through this far. We've helped them. We've done all we could for them so far.
Deep down, I had an ambition. I wanted to be something. At first, it was a doctor, but maybe that was a child's wish. Then I wanted to be a nurse, because I like to take care of things and see things healed. I wanted to be independent instead of being dependent all these years on my husband. So I decided to go to work. Well, I feel proud because I'm part of the breadwinner. And when my children want something, I don't have to say, no, you can't have it till when we can afford it. Most of the time I can fulfill their wishes. Well, when I first heard Zenith was going to lay off people or even close down, I guess I just didn't want to believe it. I just left it in the back of my mind, you know, let the other people talk about it. I'm not going to even think about it. Well, there are moments when I just about think about it and I get frightened. And if this happens, I don't want to go home to the reservation. I don't want to go on the welfare rolls. Just want to find another job and go to work.
Zenith did take my dream away. That I could retire there. I was kind of despondent on it because, well, myself, I couldn't believe that they're closing it, you know, because there's so much there. And I know how the people felt, too. A lot of them, they depended on that place. And we had hopes that the place would probably run till I retired. Maybe our children will all be working there one of these days, you know. I closing it, so they close the doors on us again, see. Then we're going to uproot. We have to leave everything. We can't haul it in one car. We can just take what clothes we could use and leave the rest and just go. Yeah, everything, giving everything up. I'll probably someday come back, but not until I retire. I don't know, if you're young, you could say, oh, the hell with it, you know. Get another job somewhere else, easier, you know, or something like that. But me, I'm getting the age where, you know, I thought I'd never have to look for another job again. And now it's gone. I'd probably walk in someplace and it's, oh, you're too old, you can't use your, you know. I know I'm going to hear that a lot of places. But I still think I got a lot of fire left in me to build one, I tell you. I had a very tough life when I was a kid. A lot of meals there, I could say I come away from the table hungry, you see. And so I tell them now, I said, we're working, we can afford it, drink a lot of milk, eat all that meat up, don't waste no food. And we have all kinds of trimmings when we're eating. And I said, fill up, every one of you, get plenty to eat. And I explained to them. When I was a kid, I didn't have this. And I said, today, I'm going to tell you right now, I said, you'll never go hungry as long as I'm alive. Because I went through it. I know what it was.
I guess maybe my belief in God is so strong that I think He's going to take care of us. He's going to find us something. Find us a way.
There are alternative jobs available. The people who are laid off in the import-competing industries are being laid off in the economy where 20 million people change jobs every year. We're eliminating low-wage jobs and increasing the number of high-wage jobs.
My last day at Zenith was probably one of the lowest days I've ever experienced in my life. It's a day that I hope I never have to go through again. I didn't want to miss anybody. I wanted to be certain that I told them how I felt about working with them. And I didn't want to leave until I could see you. A year ago, I never felt a threat. I was very comfortable with my life and the way we lived and the fact that the job will always be there. We put our property on the market right away. It's not sold. There's people who've been out here and looked, but nothing has happened yet.
Maybe you'd like to buy our property.
We have resolved that we're not going to move as a family. That's for certain. The family will stay here until this property is sold. I think the bottom line was that we're going to be separated. My family will have to stay here in Sioux City. And the kids will go back to school here, and my wife will be here alone. I'll go to Minneapolis, find an apartment or someplace to live for a while. I'm really starting all over again with another job, another home, another city. Everything is going to be a restart. Friends, you know, it won't be the same.
Then I heard your tears. To our wonderful friends, the Alberts, Richard, Joanne, Mike, Mark, and last but not least is Dan. As neighbors, they're always ready with a helping hand. Their hobbies are far but few. Richard welds, gardens, works with wood, photography, and we think he's a genius too. Joanne paints, plays the organ, makes all sorts of things, but water she can't boil.
Careful, you couldn't run.
God's soil. She plants thousands of seeds, which they are aware, and pots them individually with love and tender care. Mike, Mark, and Dan are true boys, and to Richard and Joanne are real joys. They have a fight now and then, and talking their way out of things is quite shrewd. But Richard's a referee, and sometimes settling things comes quite on blue. Now, dear friends, we don't like to see you move away, and tell you this is so hard to say. As your friends will always be true. Good luck, and may God bless you.
American workers. Some people say they're not as good as they used to be. Well, to that, we politely answer, bunk. Behind every Zenith color TV are thousands of American workers like these.
The labor savings by moving offshore are substantial. I would guess that the savings are probably in the area of $5,000 to $7,000 a job. It's our experience at Zenith that the men and women that we had in our American plants were every bit as productive as any we've ever had overseas. It's our opinion that they produced products that were of every bit as high quality as any products that we've produced overseas. They are substantially higher paid. There isn't any way you're going to ask men and women to walk into American plants and work for 25 cents an hour or $1 an hour. So the American employee is substantially higher paid.
My name is Jim Ryan. I'm the general manager of Zenith Taiwan Corporation. I have found the working conditions here very favorable. The people themselves, they are willing to take on tasks and assignments irregardless of the extent of that task. If it requires 10 to 14 hours a day of work, this is complied with. Well, the average week consists of 45 actual working hours. The average salary on a monthly basis would be about $51 a month, U.S. money. We provide a meal subsidy. Provide one meal a day, which is their lunch. We also provide transportation subsidy. It is figured as a fringe benefit to the base.
In the world at large, although we do not have free trade, we have freer trade than we did 20 years ago or 40 years ago. Now, mind you, it's still difficult to land goods in Japan and market them and sell them, and there are restrictions in France and in many markets against us, just as we have restrictions against foreign merchandise. But if you count the quantitative amount of this, it is less than it used to be.
I won't tell you that free trade is a false goal. I don't know whether it's a false goal or not. It is not going to be achieved in my lifetime, and I don't think there's anybody in the government who would suggest it'll be achieved in my lifetime. And in the period when we don't really have free trade, then I think it's important that we make certain that we are not being out-negotiated.
Barrier for barrier, do unto others as you would have others do unto you, and what we get is what we should practice. And in that way, you'll have fair trade. It may not necessarily be as free as it is now, but it'll sure be fairer.
We do need verification of the Social Security numbers. Your Social Security card, a paycheck stub, to verify the number before you leave. What we're doing is going to use this form here to help set up your file so that when you are eventually laid off because of the imports, we will already started a file for you in Des Moines for the trade readjustment. We're going to start working on those now. So please fill it out carefully. If you have any problems, any questions, please raise your hand. Mr. Tom or Mr. Gutierrez will be around to help you. First off, let's just go ahead with the large form. Starting up there in the upper left-hand corner, your Social Security number with box number 1. Middle initial in the small box in the center, number 3. Leave the month blank for birth date. I need just the last 2 numbers of the year in which you were born. Next space over to the right, United States citizen, yes or no? your residence. So what we want is, if you reside in Iowa, we want you to put in the number 19, 19. Everything else is completed here, except if you will drop down about 2 inches on the form, it says number 35 on the left-hand side. Please sign here.
I'm Jim Conley, the operations manager of Reynosa. We're paying the minimum salary under Mexican law, 122 pesos per day. It's about $5.42 a day. For $5.42 a day, we have not had any problem attracting workers. Labor is very cheap. We work 6 days a week, 8 hours a day, 48 hours a week is the normal Mexican work week by law. They want to learn. They're hard-working people. The people need the jobs, and I mean really need the jobs. They exist at almost the poverty level. I am pleased with what Zenith's been able to do for the Mexican people in Reynosa. It's a successful manufacturing operation.
Everybody seems to forget that America is the world's marketplace. America is where they want to go. America is where these producers look as the market for their products. And as a consequence of that, the American worker is the only one that loses in the whole cycle, because his job disappears. He has nothing but short-term protection for his existence, his standard of living, the future of his family. The corporation's profits go on uninterrupted as long as they have this free access back to the American marketplace. The foreign worker is exploited because of his low wage rate and the prohibition of unions, or the ruthless suppression of them in most of these places. And because he is exploited, he never earns enough money building that product to become a consumer of it. And for that reason, 100% of it comes back to the United States. And everybody goes merrily on except the American worker. He's the one that's left out of the circle and bears the brunt of it.
Tonight's meeting will be probably the final meeting we'll have before plant shutdown. We're going to cover the things that we think are going to help you as the plant closes down and your unemployment extends. We don't want welfare. We don't want handouts. We'd rather not be on unemployment and TRA. We want jobs. 11:30 this morning, they announced to us that the plant was going to be permanently closed, put up for sale or lease. They told us that the plant would cease operation by April. And you thought you seen the handwriting on the wall. You thought you seen it. And I want to tell you that you're wrong. This company doesn't even have the decency to ship our jobs to other American workers.
The American worker.
Tonight's meeting will be probably the final meeting we'll have before plant shutdown. We're going to cover the things that we think are going to help you as a 11:30 this morning, they announced to us that the plant was going to be permanently closed, put up for sale or lease. They told us that the plant would cease operation by April. And you thought you seen the handwriting on the wall. You thought you seen it. And I want to tell you that you're wrong. This company doesn't even have the decency to ship our jobs to other American workers. Tonight's meeting will be probably the final meeting we'll have before plant shutdown. We're going to cover the things that we think are going to help you as the plant closes down and your unemployment extends. We don't want welfare. We don't want handouts. We'd rather not be on unemployment and TRA. We want jobs.